Hello friends, welcome to our YouTube channel Code 369. So we are learning React, okay, and this is a full stack development course. Today is class 73. We are learning React from FreeCodeCamp website, okay, and we are learning all the front-end development libraries. So React is a part of it, okay. And I have given link in the description box to access this website. Please check it. So far we have completed Bootstrap, jQuery, SASS, and in React we have completed 17 of 47 exercises. Okay. So now we have to see use prototypes to define the props you expect. Sorry, prop types. Okay, use prop types to define the props you expect. Okay. So we know we receive properties, okay, and based on the property value we will be doing some operation. For example, here we are having property called quantity, okay, and we will be receiving the value for the quantity and we will be doing the process, okay, that we already know. And like that, what we are going to do is we are going to define what type the property should be. For example, let us see here, okay. What we have done here is just like we have created default properties, okay. So this is how we created default properties, giving the component name and give dot and default props. So just like we created default properties, we can create the property type also, okay. So we have given my component dot prop types equal to, okay, handle click prop types dot func dot is required, okay. So handle click is the property for the my component, okay. So here I expand this. So this is clearly visible now. So you can see here my component dot prop types. So my component is the component name and we are giving property type, okay. And handle click is the property name, okay. Handle click is the property name. So we have given handle click colon prop types dot func. So this means prop types dot func is nothing but the property type of the handle click should be a function, okay, should be a function. So that only we have given func, okay, prop types dot func, and we have given dot is required, okay. So is required is nothing but this property is a must, okay. The component should have this property, okay, compulsorily. So that is what is required. So you can see here adding is required tells React that handle click is a required property for the component, okay. You will see a warning if that prop is not provided. So what they are telling is if we have given dot is required to the handle click, it means that without handle click the component will not work. So it will give you a warning message, okay. It will tell you to add that property. So that is what is required, okay. So that is what the importance of is required is. So here we have given the property type of function, okay. So it should be so the handle click should be given with the value of a function, okay. So there are many other values like among the 7 JavaScript primitive types, function and boolean written as bool are the only two that use unusual spelling, okay. In addition to the primitive types, there are other types available. For example, you can check that a prop is a React element, okay. So what they are telling is other properties, other types of properties are also there. For example, string, number, all these things, okay. String, number, boolean, all these things. So what we have to do here is define prop types for the items component to require quantity as a prop and verify that it is of a number type. Okay, so we have to define the type of the property. Okay, so how to do it? Just like we did for default props. Okay, so give the component name, give the component name and give prop types. Okay, and the spelling should be always correct, uppercase lowercase. Okay, so give prop types equal to, so this is just declaring like a variable. Okay, this is just like declaring a variable. Okay, actually this is an object. Okay, object, so this is just declaring object. Okay, prop types is nothing but a property of the component. Okay, so just like it is an object, we are using dot notation. Okay, and we should give the property name, that is quantity. Okay, quantity, and then you have to give colon, and then you have to give capital P, ROP, capital types. Okay, capital T, YPS, dot. So what is the type that we have to give? Number. Okay, so give number, dot is required. Okay, and R should be in capital like this. So give required. Okay, press Ctrl Enter. Now access props using this dot props. Okay, access the properties using this dot props. Anytime you refer to a class component within itself. Okay, so this is the important word here. Anytime you refer to a class component within itself, you use this keyword. Okay, to access props within a class component, you preface the code that you use to access it with this. Okay, for example, if an ES6 class component has a prop called data, you write this dot props dot data. So that's it. Render an instance of the welcome component in the parent component app. Here give welcome a prop of name and assign it a value of a string. Within the child welcome, access the name prop within the strong tags. So what we are going to do is, here give welcome a prop of name. Okay, so we have to give welcome a property of name. So give name here. Okay, and give equal to, and assign it a value of a string. So assign the value with a string. For example, James. Okay, so you don't have to give curly brace at all, because string is not considered as a JavaScript, because normally we use string in HTML. Okay, this double quotes in HTML, so this is not a problem. Then we are going to use this keyword. So where we have to use this keyword? Here. Okay, and what they have told here is access the name prop within the strong tags. Okay, so within the strong tags we have to insert the name property. So what we have to do is we have to insert curly braces here, and we have to give this dot props dot name. Okay, so now we can see James is displayed here. So why do we use why do we use this keyword? Because this component is a class component. Okay, because this welcome is a class component. Okay, the component which has the property, okay, the component which has the property is a class component. Okay, so far we had functional components, so we simply gave props.name. Okay, because they were functional component. So if the component which is a functional and that has the property, we can give props.property name. Okay, but if the component is a class component and if it has some properties, we have to access them using this dot props dot name. Okay, so that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now review using props with stateless functional components. So this is very simple. Okay, this is very simple. For example, you are having a class here. Okay, class component here, and it is having a child component of camper. Okay, but we do not have any code for camper. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a component with the name of camper. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So how to create a component? We can create a component using function. Okay, so I'm going to create a functional component now. So give function keyword and give camper and give props here. Okay, and open it with curly braces and then return something. Okay, and what they are telling here is, but make sure to have one p element that includes only the name value that is passed as a prop. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to include one p element. Okay, and that should be having a property called a name. Okay, so it should include a property called name. So how to include it? Use the curly braces and give props.name. Okay, now finally define prop types on the camper. And one more thing here, you can see, define the camper component, assign it with default props. Okay, so what they are telling is we have to assign default props for the name. Okay, for this name property. So how to assign the default properties? You have to give the component name and give dot default props. Okay, and give it a value within an object. So give name camperbot. Okay, so if the value for the name, okay, name property is not provided externally by the user, that name will be getting the value of camperbot. Okay, it will be taking the default value camperbot. So that's it. So you can see the output here, camperbot. Okay, and what they are telling here is another thing. Finally, define prop types on the camper component. Okay, to require name to be provided as a prop. So what they are telling is we have to tell which type the name should be. Okay, which property type the name should be. For example, it should be a string. So we have to define the property type. Okay, and they are telling this property should be provided. Okay, so that is a must. So we have to include is required, dot is required. Okay, so give camper dot prop types equal to, you have to give the property name and that is name. Okay, and then give prop types dot string dot is required. Okay, So some mistake is there. What is it? So semicolon should not be there. Okay. So that's it. It works. So what will happen if we do not give is required? Remove this and see. So it shows the message that the camper component should include prop types which require the name prop to be of the type string. Okay. So include it. That's it. Is required. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a stateful component. Okay. Create a stateful component. So stateful component is nothing but state, a concept called state will be included. Okay. So there is a component in the code editor that is trying to render a first name property from its state. Okay. However, there is no state defined. Initialize the component with the state in the constructor and assign your name to a property of first name. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a concept called state. Okay. So where do you have to create the state? Okay. Inside the constructor, after the super props. Okay. You have to create the state. So how to create a state? You have to give this dot state equal to, and we have to define the property name. Okay. And what they are telling is you have to give the property of first name. So give first name and give your first name. So I am giving first name as Bond. Okay. So first of all you have to know what is a state. Okay. So you can see here one of the most important topics in React is state. Okay. State consists of any data your application needs to know about that can change over time. Okay. So this is the important line here. Okay. So state is nothing but an important data. Okay. So that is the important data that we know, but it can be changed over time. For example, now a user enters into a website. Okay. Now a user enters into a website and now the username is Bond. Okay. So after Bond has left the website, another user enters into the website. Okay. And that username is the name of that user is Clear. Okay. Clear. So now the state has changed. Okay. And again another user enters into the website and his name is James. Okay. James. Now you can see every time this important data, that is username. Okay. So simply I have given first name. So let us take it as username. Okay. So every time the user enters into the website and if he leaves, okay, and if he leaves the website, the username is changing. Okay. So James entered and then Clear entered, and then after Clear has gone out, now Benjamin enters. Okay. So the important data is changed now. Okay. So this is the concept behind state. So initially we will be setting the important data. Okay. So here I am giving James. So every time this data will be changed. Okay. Every time this data will be changed using a concept called set state. Okay. Using a concept called set state, and we will be seeing it later. Okay. Initially what you have to know about state is this is an important data. Okay. This is an important data which can be used within the component. Okay. And it will be changed over time. The state can be changed over the time. Okay. So that's it. Now simply know we are giving a important data of first name James, okay, and this first name James is used here by giving the code this dot state dot first name, okay. So using this dot state dot first name, we are accessing the name of James, okay. So whenever you have to access the property of first name, you have to give this dot state dot first name, okay. So that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now render state in the user interface. So this is very simple, okay. What they are telling is in the code editor, my component is already stateful. So in the constructor, we have created a state called name free code camp, okay. So the property name will be having free code camp as the value. Now what we have to do is define an h1 tag in the component's render method. So this is what the render method is, and here we have to define h1 tag, okay. So heading, so I am giving heading of h1, okay. And what we have to do is which renders the value of name from the component state. So we have to insert this name property, okay. We have to use this name property here. So how to do it? You have to give curly braces and you have to give this dot state dot name, okay. So free code camp is visible here. So this is same like what we did in the previous exercise, okay. Now we have accessed the property of name from the state, okay, and use it here. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now render state in the user interface another way, okay. So how to render state in the user interface another way, that is what we are going to see. So in this exercise, in the my component render method, define a const called name and set it equal to the name value in the component state, okay. So this is very simple. For example, this is where the JSX is, okay. JSX is nothing but combination of HTML and JavaScript. But before this return statement, this is just a JavaScript, okay. So using JavaScript, what we can do is we can create a variable, okay. So I am creating a variable now, const name, okay. So name is the variable I am creating, and I can give equal to. Then what I am going to do is set it equal to the name value in the component state. So I am going to give this variable with the value of this name, okay, which is available in the state. So how to access this name property from the state? You have to give this dot state dot name, okay. So I am giving this dot state dot name, okay. So now it will be having the value of free code camp. This variable will be having the value of free code camp, okay. Then what I have to do is I have to use this value here, okay. Next, in the return statement, render this value in an h1 tag using the variable name, okay. So I am going to insert a h1 tag here, okay, for heading. And I am going to use that name variable here, okay, name variable here. So now we have entered into JSX because inside the return statement, that is JSX, because this is a combination of HTML and JavaScript. So I am going to write JavaScript code into HTML. So how to write? We have to use curly braces now, okay. So I am going to give the variable name, and that is nothing but name, okay. So now you will see the output of free code camp here, okay. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now what we are going to do is we are going to set state with this dot say set state. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to change the state. Okay. For example, initially the state is having the name of initial state. Okay. And over a period of time, after some changes happens, the name is also changed. Okay. So for example, let us see it directly. Okay, in the render method. Okay, so here we are having a button. Okay, here we are having a button, and that button is having the text of click me. So you can see here. Okay, this click me button. So there is a button which is having the text of click me. So I am going to click this. Okay, I am going to click this, and here you can see a thing called on click. So on click is nothing but it means this on click means when you are clicking it. Okay, so that is what it means. When you are clicking this, that is what on click means. Okay, so when the button is clicked, that means on click. Okay, on click means when the button is clicked. What will happen is there is a function we have created here. Okay, there is a function we have created, and that function is nothing but the function name is handle click. Okay, handle click is a function we have created. So on click means when the button is clicked, and when the button is clicked, what will happen is this handle click function will be executed. Okay, so we have written this dot handle click. It means this dot handle click means handle click function will be executed. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to change the state name. Okay, change the state inside the handle click function. Okay, so how to change the state? So here this is how we have to change the state. Okay, so you have to give this dot set state and give open and close braces and give curly braces. Okay, now you are going to change the state name. So here we are having the state as name initial state, but now we are going to change the property. Okay, property value. So I am giving name here, and then what they are telling is we have to give the value of React rocks. Okay, so I am giving the value of React rocks. Okay, so now what will happen is when this button is clicked, okay, on click means when the button is clicked, when this button is clicked, this function will be executed. Okay, this dot handle click. So this handle click button will be executed. So what is the code that is present inside the handle click? Set state is the code which is present inside. Okay, so what will set state do? It will change the name property which is present inside the state, okay, to React rocks. So now the state will have property name. Okay, so now the state will have value for the name as React rocks. Okay, now the initial state name has changed. Okay, so let us click it and check it. Okay, so here on the 11th line semicolon is missing. So where it is? Eleven. Sorry, I have missed one thing. Okay, sorry, I have done a mistake here. Okay, so this bracket should not be coming here. Okay, this bracket should be closed here. Okay, that's it. So initially the button is there and it is set to initial state. Okay, so when I am clicking this button, changes will be happening. Okay, I am clicking it. Now you can see React Rocks is displayed here. That's it. When I am again clicking on it, so nothing will happen. So this is how it works. Press Ctrl Enter. So now what we are going to see is, I already told you, we have created, we are having a method here. Okay, we are having a function here. So when that, in the previous exercise, when that button was clicked, this handle click function will be executed. But now what we are going to see is how to create this function. Okay, so that is what we are going to see now. So here we have created the state using this dot state. So like that we are going to create the function here. Okay, so how to create it? You have to use this and give dot, and you have to add the function name. So that is handle click. Okay, so give handle click equal to, and again give this dot handle click and give dot bind of this. Okay, so you don't have to know how it works, you just remember how to write this. Okay, so that's enough. Now the function is created here. Okay, so press Ctrl Enter. Now what it says is, clicking the button element should run the handle click method and set the state text to you clicked. Okay, so now what they are saying is, when this button is clicked, for example this is the button, when this button is clicked, handle click should be working. Okay, so what is the work that the handle click can do? It can change the state. Okay, it can change the state value of text to you clicked. So here initially it is having the state of text hello. Okay, so now when the handle click function is executed, it will be changing the state of text to you clicked. Okay, so when this button is clicked means, so how can we define when a function is clicked? You can use on click. Okay, so on click means when the function is clicked. Okay, and you have to use curly braces here because this is a JSX. Okay, and I have to call this function. So when this button is clicked, I have to call this function. I have to make this function work. So how can I call this function? I have to give this dot handle click. Okay, now I am clicking this, you can see you clicked has come. Okay, that's it. Now when the button is clicked, this state, okay, text hello will be changed to you clicked. Okay, that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now we are going to use state to toggle an element. Okay, so for this I will be completing the code and I will be explaining you. Okay, this is also very simple, so I am going to be explaining you. Okay, so let us start the code. Okay, we have created a component called my component. Okay, and we have created a state here. Okay, and that state is having a property called visibility, which is initially set to false. Okay, then we have created a function here that is named as toggle visibility. So we have created a function called toggle visibility using this code. Okay, then we are going to define the function. So what it is going to be doing. Okay, so we are defining the function here. So what it is going to be doing, so what it will do is, it will change the state. Okay, it will change the state. So when it will change the state, so here you are having state property of visibility false. So what this toggle visibility is going to be doing is, it will change the state property. So it will change the value of the visibility. Okay. So we are giving this dot set state, and inside this we are giving some conditions. For example, if state dot visibility equal to true, so we are using if else condition here. So if initially the visibility is true, it will change the visibility as false. Okay. Otherwise, if the visibility is false, it will be changing the visibility as true. So that is what it is going to be doing. Okay. So here we are accessing this property, okay, visibility. So here we are having, so we are giving state dot visibility. Okay. So when we are accessing the property of visibility, we have to give state dot visibility. Okay. And one more thing, when we are accessing this visibility property of the state inside the set state, okay, inside the set state, we don't have to give this dot state dot visibility. Okay, we can just give state dot visibility. So that itself is enough, because here itself we are giving this. Okay, so we don't have to again give this dot state dot visibility. Okay, like how we did in the previous examples. Okay, so just give state dot visibility. Okay, and one more thing, here we are passing the state as an argument. Okay, here we are passing the state as an argument, because we are accessing the property into an if condition, if else condition. Okay, as we are accessing this property, we cannot directly give this dot, we cannot, for example, so this is a previous exercise, okay, which we have completed. So here we are having state, okay, and in the state we are defining a property called name, and we are giving value of initial state, and we are using set state here, which will change the state property. Okay, so now what we are doing is, we are changing the name as React Rocks. Okay, and one thing which you have to notice here is, we are not doing anything on this directly. Okay, so here here we are having the name as initial state, and we are changing again the property name as React Rocks. And one thing which you have to notice is, you are not accessing this name property directly. Okay, first in the state we have defined a property called name, and we have given a value, and then we are changing the state now. Okay, so again we are giving the name property, and we are using a different name. So we are not directly accessing this property. Okay, we are not directly changing this property. Again we are defining it, and we are changing the value. That's what we are doing. But here you can see, we are directly accessing the value of this property. Okay, we are directly accessing the value of this property. So if we are doing like that, what we have to do is, we have to pass this state as an argument. Okay, we have to pass the state as an argument, then we have to use this, then we have to access this property. Okay, so that is what we have done here. So what this function is doing is, it will be changing the state. Okay, so initially if the state dot visibility is true, it will be changing the visibility as false. Okay, and if it is false, it will be changing the visibility as true. That is what the function of toggle visibility is. Okay, and let us get into our JSX. So here this is what our JSX code is, and we are giving an if statement. If this dot state dot visibility, okay, it means true. So if this is true, okay, this dot state dot visibility is true, what will happen is return development. There is a button also here, okay. So we are using a button here, and when that button is clicked, this dot toggle visibility, it means the toggle visibility function will be working, okay. And here also the same, we are having a button, okay. When the button is clicked, that this dot toggle visibility function will be working. So this function will be working, okay. But you can ask, so the same thing is here, okay. In this button we are using toggle visibility, and in this button also we are using toggle visibility. So what is the difference? That is what you are asking me. So initially they have given this dot state dot visibility. So if this becomes true, it means if the visibility value is true, okay. If this is true, what you can see here is you will see the message here, okay. Now you see me. So when the visibility is true, this message will be displayed. Now you see me, okay. Otherwise, if initially the visibility is false, okay, if initially the visibility is false, you will not see anything, okay. So when the visibility is true, okay, when the visibility is true, the visibility will be changed to false, okay. So when the visibility is changed to false, you will not see any message, okay. Again, when the visibility is initially false, okay, when the visibility is initially false, it will be set to true when the button is clicked, okay. When the button is clicked, so this message will be displayed. That's it. Now let us click this button and see. Now you can see this message, okay. So now the visibility is true, so it is looking like this. And when again I am clicking this button, the visibility will be changed to false, okay. And now you will not see anything. Now the visibility is false. So again when I click, the visibility will set to true and this message will be displayed. So that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now write a simple counter, okay. This is also very simple. I am going to finish the code and I will be explaining you. This is very, very simple, okay. So this is what our code is, okay. This is very simple. So what it will be doing is, here you are having current count as 0, okay. And when I am clicking on the increment button, the value will be increased. And when I click on the decrement button, the value will be decreased. And when I click on the reset button, it will be set to 0. So that's it. So we are going to do it using code, okay. So we have created a component called counter, and that component will be having a state, and the state will be having a property of count 0, okay. So initially the count is set to 0 in the state, and we are using 3 functions here, okay. We have created 3 functions here. So one function is increment, and another function is decrement, and another function is reset, okay. So next what we are going to see is what are the process, what are the operations that are being done by these functions, okay. So here you can see this is the reset function, okay, reset function. So what this reset function will do? It will change the state using set state, okay, to the count value of 0, okay. So that is the function of the reset function, okay. Reset function will change the state as count of 0, okay. And here we are having increment function, okay. what this increment function will do is it will change the count value with increment of 1. Okay, so that is what it does. So here also we cannot directly change the value of count. Okay, we cannot give count equal to count plus 1, like that we cannot give. Okay, what I am saying is we cannot give count colon count plus 1, like that we cannot give. Okay, so that is impossible. So what we can do here is the increment function will add the count value with 1 using this code. Okay, so again we are passing state as an argument, then we have to change the count value. Okay, so we have to give count, and now we are accessing the count value. Okay, this value we are accessing this value using state.count. Okay, and then we are adding the value with 1. Okay, so here decrement also like that only. We are accessing the count value of the state by passing state as an argument. Okay, by passing state as an argument we are accessing the count value of the state. Okay, and that is 0 here. Okay, and we will be reducing the value with 1. Okay, that's it. Now the count value will be changed. And then we are having 3 buttons here. Okay, 3 buttons here, and we are using on click. Okay, we are using increment button here. So there are 3 buttons with the name of increment, decrement and reset. So what the increment function will do is, what the increment button will do is, when it is clicked, okay, so we are giving on click. So when it is clicked, increment function will be working. So this function will be working. So what it will do is, it will be changing the count value with value increased by 1. Okay, like that when the decrement button is clicked. Okay, so we use on click, decrement function will be working. So this decrement function will be reducing the state value of count. Okay, so reducing the value of count by 1. That's it. And when the reset button is clicked, okay, when the reset button is clicked, that means on click, reset function will be working. So the reset function will be setting the count value to 0. That's it. So this is how it works. When you are using the increment button, the value will increase by 1. When you use the decrement function, the value will decrease by 1. And when you are clicking on the reset button, it will set to 0. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So for this also I will be completing the code and I will be explaining you. Okay. So what I will do is I will remove, I will write the code and I will explain you. That's it. So let us see this. We have completed this, and here you are seeing an input field. So you can type whatever. Okay, you can type whatever, like this you can type, and what you can see is whatever you type is visible here. Okay, so how to make this? For example, I am typing James Bond and it should be visible here. So how to make it visible? So let us do it. So let us make it empty now. So first of all we have to create, first of all we have to create a component, okay, that is controlled input, okay, and then we have to create a state, okay, and here we have created a function and we have defined what the function should be doing here, okay, and we have used render method and we have created div element and we have inserted some code here, okay, and that code is nothing but we have created an input element, okay, input element is nothing but this box, okay. So using this code input element, we have created a box here. Then what we have done is we have inserted a heading called controlled input. So this is what here, okay, controlled input. And then we have inserted a paragraph, okay. So whatever we type into this input field, whatever we type in this input field will be displayed as a paragraph, okay. So this is what the paragraph is. So that's it. So this code, okay. So how to make it happen? So initially what I have done is I have given the input value as empty string, okay. Initially I have set the state input as empty string. So initially what will happen? So let me remove all these things. Initially I have set the input value as empty string. So nothing is there, okay. And I have accessed the state input here in the paragraph, okay. Initially this input is an empty string, and what I have done is I have used this input property from the state here in this paragraph. So I have given this dot state dot input, okay. So the paragraph will be displayed below the controlled input, okay. So initially it is empty, initially the string is empty, so the paragraph will also be empty, okay. But what we have to do is, if we type something here, if we type something, that should be visible here, okay. So that is what we have to do. So what we can do is, I have given in this input element, okay, I have given in this input element value equal to this dot state dot input. It means value is nothing but the value which you are typing, okay. So that is what the value is, okay. So value is nothing but the content which you are typing. So that value will be stored in the state's input property, okay, here. So whatever you type will be stored initially here, okay. That is what this statement means. And on change is nothing but this input field is just being there, okay. So on change means whenever any change happens in the input field. For example, if I type, so now the change is happening. So I am typing, now the change is happening, okay. So that is what on change is. So when some changes are happening in the input field, that means when the input field is being typed, handle change function should be working, okay. So what is the content which is written in the handle change function? So you can see handle change function here, and what we have done in the handle change function is we have changed the state now, okay. So initially the state is empty string, okay. Now we are changing the state, okay. So we are giving input colon event dot target dot value. It means first of all we have to know what is event here, okay. You can give any name here, okay, any name, anything or any name, okay. You can give any name here, and if I give any name dot target dot value, it means, okay, it means here you can see we are changing the state now, okay. So we are giving the property name of the state as input, and this input will be getting the value of this, okay. We know this. So this input will be getting the value of this. So what happens here is we are getting an argument here, okay, that is any name, okay. So this argument will do what means it will be targeting the value. So this argument will be targeting the value and it will store it in the input, okay. So where is value? Inside the input field we know This is what value is. So value is nothing but the content which we type here, okay, which we type here in the input field. So this is what the value is. So now what you can understand here is when something is typed on the input field, this will call the handle change function, okay. So now the handle change function will be working, and what the handle change function will be doing is it will be changing the input, okay, state of input. So initially the input is empty string, now it will be changing the value of the input, okay. So with what it will be changing? It will be changing with the value of the input field, okay. So the content which is typed in the input field will be now assigned to the input state, okay, input property of the state. So now the input property of the state will be assigned with the value which is typed here, okay. Then what we are going to do is, now we are having this dot state dot input. So whatever the value that the state input is getting, okay, it will be displayed in a paragraph here, that's it. So when we type something, this function will be working and it will be changing the value of the input with the value which you typed, okay. Now the value is changed, okay. So now now as the state is changed, okay, this paragraph also will change, that's it. So now the state is changed when typed, okay. So the below paragraph, so the paragraph will also change. So now you can see this, okay. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So now we are going to see create a controlled form, okay. Create a controlled form. So for this also I will be completing the code and I will be explaining you, okay. This is just similar to the exercise that we had before, okay. So this will be similar to the previous exercise and this also will be very easy. So I have completed the code here, okay, and let us see how it works. For example, here we are having an input field and we are going to type something in it, okay. Type something in it. Then what we are going to do is we are going to submit this, okay. And when we submit this, the content which was typed will be printed here, okay. So that is what we are going to do now. So we are typing something, for example, hello world, and when we submit that, that will be printed here, okay, as a paragraph. So that is what we are going to do. So we are going to see from the starting. So we are having a class called myForm, and initially this is having a state, okay, with properties of input and submit, okay. And initially the input is an empty string and the submit is having an empty string, okay. Then we have created two functions called handle change and handle submit, and we have defined what the function should be doing, okay. So these two functions. So we have defined what these two functions should be doing. Then in the render method we have created all these things, and the first is we have created a form, okay. We have created a form. So this form will be having an input field and also a button, okay. So this form will be having two things. One is the input field and another one is button, okay. So these two things, one this input field and another one is this button. Okay, so that's it. Then we will be having a heading, okay, h1. So this is what here the hello world is. Okay, so in this heading, what will be typed is, what will be displayed is the content which we typed and gave submit will be printed here. Okay, so this large hello world is nothing but this h1. Okay, this h1. Okay, so let us understand the code. For example, this input is same as what we saw in the previous exercise. For example, here we are having the input field. Okay, here we are having the input field, and value is nothing but the content which we type in the input field. Okay, so this value will be stored to the input property of the state. Okay, so this value will be stored where? This will be stored here. Okay, so whatever the value you type in the input field will be stored here. Okay, we already know it, we saw it in the previous exercise. Okay, so whenever any value is changed, for example, whenever this input field is changed, for example, when we type, so this is a change. Okay, change in the input field. So whenever any change happens in the input field, handle change property will be called. Okay, handle change function will be called. So what will the handle change function will be doing? So here you can see handle change function. Okay, and it will change the value of the input, okay, which is present in the state. So initially the state is having the input as empty string, and whenever any changes happens in the input field, okay, whenever any changes happens in the input field, this handle change function will be called, and this will be changing the state. Okay, this will be changing the state property of input. Okay, so with which value it is going to be changing? It will be changing with the value that is being typed on the input field. Okay, so that is why we have given event dot target dot value. So event is an argument here, so this event will be targeting the value of the input field. So this is what the value. Okay, so this value is nothing but which is typed in the input field. So the value which is typed in the input field will be targeted by this argument called event. Okay, parameter or argument, anything. So by this parameter, and it will be stored in the input field. Okay, so sorry, this will be stored in the input property. Okay, so now the state input will be changed. Okay, when something is typed, so we can understand this easily. And again, one more thing, we are having a submit button here. Okay, we are having a submit button here. Okay, inside the form. And here we can see in the form. Okay, in the form we have used on submit. So on submit is nothing but it means when the form is submitted. Okay, so when the form is submitted, this will call the function handle submit. Okay, so what the handle submit will do, let us ignore this. Okay, we will see it later. So what the handle submit will do, this also will change the state. Okay, so initially the state is having the value of submit as empty string. Okay, now the state will be changed with the value of this dot state dot input. Okay, this dot state dot input. So what you can understand from here is, initially the input value will be empty string, and when you type something here, okay, in the input field, the typed value will be stored in the input field, okay. So now the input field will be having the value which was typed, and when you submit, okay, and when you submit, this handle submit function will be executed, and the submit state will be assigned with the value of this dot state dot input. So now the input value has got changed with the value which was typed. Now what will happen is, this submit will be stored with the value of the input state, okay. So the submit will be having the value which was typed in the input field. So that is the end, okay, that is the conclusion. So whatever typed in the input field, okay, whatever typed in the input field will now be stored in the submit button, okay, because whatever typed was stored in the input state, okay, stored in the input, now the value of that input will be stored in the submit button also, okay, submit state also, that's it, submit property also. So finally what will happen is, we are going to use the submit property here, okay. So finally the value which was typed will be stored in this property called submit, okay, in the state called submit. Now we are using the state property submit here, okay. So whatever value which was stored in the submit state will be now accessed using this, okay, using this code, curly brace this dot state dot submit. And I told I will be telling you one thing, event dot prevent default, okay. So let us see it here. So you also must call event dot prevent default in the submit handler to prevent the default form submit behavior which will refresh the web page. For example, in the web page, whenever we type something, okay, and click submit, the whole web page will be refreshed, okay. In order to avoid that, we have given event dot prevent default, okay. So even if you submit the content, the page will not be refreshed. For example, I am giving exclamation here and I am submitting it, but now the web page has not getting refreshed, okay. The web page is not refreshed. So in order to avoid the web page getting refreshed, we have used the event dot prevent default, okay. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So finally you can see here, I have typed something and I am giving submit. Now we can see it is displayed here, okay. Using this code, it is displayed here. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Yeah, it has come. Now pass state as props to child components, okay. Pass state as props to child components. So this also I will be completing the code and I will be explaining you, okay. So now we can see I have completed the code. So this is a class component, okay. This is a class component called myapp, and here you can see another component called navbar, okay, navigation bar. And then what we have done here is, we have included this navbar component here, okay, in the myapp component. So what we can say here is, myapp now has become a parent component and navbar has become a child component here, okay. So then what we are going to do is, okay, we are giving a property for the navbar component, okay. property of name. Okay, so this name will be getting value from the state of this parent component. Okay, so we are giving this dot state dot name. So this name property will be getting the value from the parent component's state. Okay, so we are giving this dot state dot name, and we have included this property of name here. Okay, in this child component at this place. So we have included it inside the curly braces using this dot props dot name. Okay, so why we have used this dot props dot name? So normally we will be using props dot name. Okay, normally we will be using props dot name because we will not get value from the state. Okay, we will not get value from the parent's state. So normally we will be using props dot name, but now we are getting the value for the name property from the parent's state component, sorry, parent's state. Okay, so we are using this dot props dot name. Okay, so this is very important. Press Control Enter. So now you can get the value of camperbot. Okay, typed here. So hello, my name is camperbot. Okay, you can see the output. Press Control Enter. Now pass a callback as props. Okay, so for this also I will complete the code and I explain you. So this is very simple. Okay, so here we are having a class component called myapp, and again here we are having a component called getInput. Okay, so this is a component which is having the name of getInput. Okay, and this is also a component which is having the name of renderInput. Okay, so there are two components here, getInput and renderInput. Okay, and what we have done here is we have included getInput and renderInput component inside myapp component. Okay, so now inside the myapp component, getInput component and renderInput component are included. Okay, so now what we can say is getInput component and renderInput component have become the child of the myapp component. Okay, then what we are doing here is getInput is having a property called input. Okay, getInput is having a property called input, and getInput is having another property of handle change. Okay, getInput has a property of input and also a property of handle change. Okay, then what we are doing is we are assigning the input property with the value which we get from the state. Okay, state of this parent component. So this parent component myapp is having the state with input value property. Okay, with input value property. So we are going to assign the value of this input value from the state to the child component here. Okay, to the input property. So how can we assign it? We can give this dot state dot input value. Okay, so we have assigned like that, and we are going to assign the handle change property with the function. Okay, so we are going to assign this function to the handle change property, and we are assigning this function from the parent component. Okay, so we are giving this dot handle change. Okay, so this is same for the renderInput also. RenderInput component also, it is having the property of input, and for the renderInput component also we are going to assign the value from the state of the parent component. Okay, so that we are giving this dot state dot input value here also. Okay, and in the component we have to give this dot props dot input, because Actually we are getting the value from the state of the parent component. Okay, so we should not simply give props dot input. Okay, so we should give this dot props dot input. So the same for the handle change also. As we are getting function from the parent component, we should not just give props dot handle change. Okay, we should give this dot props dot handle change. Okay, so here also the same, we should give this dot props dot input. So that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So from this we are going to see in the next class. Okay, I am now completing at this. Okay, from this we are going to complete in the next class. So thank you for watching my videos, friends. Thank you for supporting me, and let us see in the next video. Thank you.